I haven't done a list of the worst movies of the year in a while because usually when I do these lists, it brings out a lot of bad emotions in me. But sometimes you just have to go out and see a really bad movie on purpose to keep your sanity when life is throwing you down. Or other times, you go out and see a movie that you really want to see and then you leave disappointed. It's happened to me this year, it's happened to me before, and now I've decided I'm going to bring it back and do my list of the worst movies of 2013. I've separated it down to 5 movies. I'm taking it into 4 categories with a fifth for the flat out worst movie of the year. So, let's begin. Now, keep in mind I'm not a Z movie enthusiast, so maybe you'll agree with me, maybe you won't, and I do have some terrible movies on this list for me to talk about, so you might want to stay tuned for that. First category, worst award attempt. This is a movie that is going for the big awards. It might actually get nominated for some big awards since it's getting a lot of praise from the critics and viewers alike. But I hated it. And my pick for the worst award attempt is American Hustle. The David O. Russell Bradley Cooper combo has done it again. Last year's Silver Linings Playbook was the stinker, and this year it's American Hustle. A lot of big actors are in this movie. Robert De Niro, Jeremy Renner, Christian Bale, Amy Adams, Louis C.K. Jennifer Lawrence is in this movie too. I'm not that into her, but I know a lot of people like her. And finally, Bradley Cooper is in it. Now, the art direction and costume design are very well done. They certainly capture the period, and the cinematography is very well done as well. So the style of the movie is definitely there. The problem is that's all that's there, the style. There's no substance. The story is tedious and vapid. And that's all I want to say about this movie. Next up, the worst action movie. And that movie is Out of the Furnace. This movie has good actors and good performances, but they can't carry the lousy screenplay. The story can be told within a half hour, but the movie is about 2 hours long, so many scenes are stretched out. There's lots of scenery in it, but mostly nothing happens. And it leads up to a weak climax and a weak ending. Now my pick for the worst romance of 2013. This movie isn't quite a romance, but it centers around romance, and it's really bad, so I'm going to classify it as the worst romance. And that movie is Don John. Joseph Gordon-Levitt wrote, directed, and starred in a movie about the typical moron. Who wants to see a movie about the typical moron? I guess a lot of people do, since this movie got fairly positive reviews from critics and viewers alike. The first 7 minutes of the movie are a rant on porn versus real sex, but the argument gets lost along the way and it becomes just about porn. Every 15 to 20 minutes of the movie cuts back to Don John talking with the audience about porn, and it's very tedious to listen to. In between that, we see lame relationship stories. Scarlett Johansson comes out in it, and then we also see some lame nightclub scenes and some lame scenes involving Don John attending a class, and Julianne Moore comes out in those scenes too. Pretty lame, and I guess I can give it credit for one thing. It tells the youngsters out there, don't be Don John. Oh yeah, and the movie has several celebrity cameos, so a lot of talent gets wasted there. Now the worst comedy horror. The reason I have comedy and horror together is that this movie is so bad I don't know whether to classify it as the worst comedy or the worst horror. And that movie is Dracula 3D. Simply read the title. Do you want to see a movie called Dracula 3D? What can I say? The CGI is horrible. The 3D makes it look worse as usual. And the movie is so disgustingly bad that I find it hard to believe that the director of this movie is supposed to be a veteran filmmaker. And I think that's all I should tell you. And now, my pick for the worst movie of 2013. The flat out worst movie. Worse than the movies I just mentioned and worse than Dracula 3D. And that movie is Hangover 3. Why is it called Part 3? This is the opposite of The Godfather. Just call them 2 and 3. Or better yet, why do these horrendous sequels need to be made? The first one shouldn't have even been made. The horrendously pathetic excuse for a movie that was. In the third movie, the 3 bums go on another trip, and then they go on a trip to Vegas. They're supposed to be on some kind of hunt to help out John Goodman's character, and in the movie, John Goodman looks like he can't wait for his paycheck. It's not funny. Again, more stupid stuff in the movie, more animal cruelty, more racism, and just like the first two, no jokes. They just do all these stupid things thinking it's funny. Now, I could go on and on. I could pick apart this movie limb by limb, but I think you get the point. That completes my picks of the worst movies of 2013. By the way, you might be wondering why After Earth wasn't on here, and that's because I liked After Earth. M. Night Shyamalan did a fine job making an alright movie. Will Smith gave a good performance as the serious father. Jaden Smith as the frightened yet trying to be serious son, really wasn't a bad movie. But now that I've gotten all these bad emotions out, I can't wait to replace those emotions with good emotions when I talk about my list of the best movies of 2013. If you've seen my past lists, then you know that I like to go out and see some great movies. So I can't wait to talk about some of the really great movies that came out in 2013. My list should be around by the end of the month. See you then.